The conflict between Ukraine and Russia began on February 24 and has shown no signs of ending. Ukraine's Western allies have retaliated with sweeping sanctions against Russia and its entities, as well as lethal assistance to Kiev. Russia has filed a formal complaint with the US over military aid to Ukraine, warning of unprecedented consequences if advanced weapons shipments proceed. Putin's initial plan to depose Volodymyr Zelensky's government has failed miserably. His overall goal, however, of extending Russian influence westward, in pursuit of a renewed Eurasia superpower, remains on the table. Far from his deranged war plan, Russian President Vladimir Putin has now decided to occupy eastern Ukraine, while extending control of the Black Sea coast all the way to Transnistria. One of Russia's most significant advantages over Ukraine should have been air power. Russia's air force was expected to play a critical role in the invasion, allowing the Russian army to plunge deep into Ukraine, seize Kiev, and destroy the Ukrainian military, with nearly 4,000 combat aircraft and extensive experience bombing targets in Syria, Georgia, and Chechnya. Despite this, Vladimir Putin's air force is still fighting for control of the skies, more than 2 months into the conflict. This exemplifies Russia's air force's failure story thus far in the military conflict. During the air war, Ukrainian forces demonstrated surprising strength and adapted as the fighting progressed. However, either side in this war could still gain air superiority, changing the course of the conflict fundamentally. Russia withdrew from Kiev and declared its primary goal to be the liberation of Donbas, which refers to Ukraine's eastern regions of Luhansk and Donetsk. More than a third of this area had already been seized by Russian proxy forces. In a war that began in 2014, Russia now desired to conquer the entire area. President Putin is preparing for a protracted conflict in Ukraine, during which he will pursue goals outside of the Donbas. According to US intelligence, Putin is likely to involve his entire country in the conflict. US Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines said, President Vladimir Putin will not end the Ukraine war with the Donbas campaign and is determined to build a land bridge to the Russia-controlled region of Moldova. The warning comes as fighting rages in the east, where Russia is attempting to seize territory. The likelihood of a clear Russian victory, followed by a humiliating surrender treaty, appears remote. However, the definition of victory is crucial. Ukraine would accept a ceasefire if it meant a return to the pre-24th of February status quo, with Russia resuming its previous positions. However, Putin would find the outcome unacceptable in this case. The Israeli commentator, Yaakov Kedmi, recently argued on Russian state television that any treaty Russia signs with the current Ukrainian government will result in Russia's complete defeat. He said Russia is doomed as a state if it is unable to defeat Zelensky. Moscow claims it is conducting a special operation rather than a war. Putin only has one obvious option: declare a full-fledged war. Such a declaration would aid him in stopping the bleeding and dispatching additional reinforcements that he could use to salvage a victory. With the Russian army on full war footing, Moscow can theoretically scale back its objectives and look beyond eastern Ukraine. Beyond the military logic, increasing the stakes may be viewed as the only way to gain enough leverage to negotiate a good agreement, one that ensures Crimea, the Donbas, and the majority of southern Ukraine remain under Russian control, and Ukraine remains neutral. After a botched start to the invasion, announcing a full-scale mobilization could help Moscow gain whatever leverage it feels it requires. There is a reason Putin did not launch a full-fledged war, aside from the fact that he clearly underestimated the level of resistance to his invasion of Ukraine. Going for a full-scale mobilization increases his domestic exposure exponentially. However, there is no backing down from lofty goals if Putin chooses a full-scale war, especially as it becomes more expensive. Limiting the operation to the Donbas after declaring a full-scale mobilization will appear to be too small a success, especially when the cost is measured in tens of thousands of Russian soldiers killed. Another option is for Russia to simply hold on to the territory it has already taken. Ukraine is fighting on its own land, which gives it an advantage militarily. However, despite the harsh sanctions imposed on Russia, Ukraine's economy is suffering far more than Russia's. According to the World Bank, the Ukrainian economy will contract by 45% in the coming years. The Russian economy, on the other hand, is expected to contract by 15%, according to the most optimistic estimates. Russian forces attrition, whether from exhausting offensives or the need to maintain control over increasingly rebellious areas, would almost certainly result in a Ukrainian victory. The costs could be high, and given the extent of the country's damage and the invading forces' war crimes, this would be a hollow victory in many ways. But a Ukrainian victory, unlike a Russian victory, which appears unlikely unless Putin is willing to go all in, would also prevent future wars. Additionally, when defending against an invasion, the concept of winning is simple. The ultimate goal is to drive the invader out.